So, Aaron, how come these plants seem to be much more healthier and bigger? Can you tell me what is the difference and why they grow differently?
The pots are a combination grow medium of cocoa fiber, which is from coconut husk, peat moss, and a variety of soil amendments such as like pumice, perlite, which is expanded glass, and then a lot of different organic type like rock dust, seaweeds. What would really change those pots over these ones here is the fact that they're above ground. They're in a black fabric pot, so they dry out a lot faster. Now that can be advantageous if you're growing with synthetic grow nutrients, because the more the plant's roots are dried out, the more that you can water. The more that you water, the more that you can feed. The other factor is the pH rate. So what we do is we'll do what's called a slurry test, and that's where you take a cup of soil about half full, you put your water that you're going to be watering with, and you mix it together. You let it stand for about a minute, and then you test the pH of that water. Cocoa fiber naturally has a high acidity rate, so you really have to put a lot more effort in controlling the pH of your water that you feed in those pots. Plants that are in the soil naturally have a more alkaline consistency. So I would say the number one reason that these plants are larger is attributed to the in-ground soil and the pH, natural pH that the soil here is. Also, we're right on some bodies of water, so there's a sub-irrigation layer that once these plants get big enough, their roots tap into a water source deep underneath the ground, so they actually don't need water as much. The plants in the pots are disadvantaged because of the medium, the pot itself, and the soil hinders the ability of the plants to fully utilize that soil space. One other thing I would say is that we've planted more plants in this area. So we'll notice all these plants have nowhere to grow except up. All right, so rabbits. This is a meat breed rabbit. They're used for meat and their pelts, and then a valuable byproduct is their poop. Rabbit poop itself is a very broken down source of plant nutrients, and beyond the plant nutrients, it's actually the biology that's attracted to the poop. It's in itself, you can make cannabis teas from it, and basically what a tea is you add sugar to water, and then you put different source of microbial inoculant, which in this case would be rabbit poop, and that all the bacteria inside that rabbit poop will eat the sugar and it multiplies. So then you can put that through your watering system and you feed that to your plants. So not to mention the nutrients that's in the rabbit poop, but it's also the life that's replicated in the rabbit poop is sent out to the plants. Because in an organic system, you're not feeding the plants, you're feeding the soil, and the soil feeds the plants. All visitors have to sign in to the visitor log. First and last name, date of birth, and reason for visit. And we have to click this little visitor tag on you.
Boom, I'm officially a visitor.
We have two important elements here. This here is our video recording system, which has to be stored for 90 days, accessible for the regulating body. And then there's also another camera over here where the information that camera receives has to be stored for 30 days on the cloud. That camera covers the security system. And the amount of detail that's associated with this system is quite extensive because they want to be able to see faces. This one here is connected to the internet, and this is what we use for our metric seed to sale tracking system. This here is what's called a plant tag, This is what we put on any living plant. And this tracks, we input this number into the metric system, which is done via website on the internet. Metric is a control system that's being implemented in a variety of states across the United States. So the hope is that when it becomes federally legal, that enables interstate transfers, because if we transfer to, say, Vegas or Nevada, they're on the same metric transfer system, so it would be easily tracked from state to state. So when the plant is finished its process, then plant tag would need to be moved over to what's called a package tag. This package tag would then be identified in any package. Let's say it's 100 clones. We put this package tag on, and then this package is what can be transferred in between farms or licensed businesses. Everything that we do on site has to be laid out in written form that dictates how we operate and what we do under certain course of actions. So all those contingency plans that I talked about have to be written out ahead of time. And if they're not written out ahead of time, you have to write that plan as you do it. All those have to be done at the time of licensing.
Oh, wow.
So all of our SRPs, MSDS already has to be put in place. Our water rights, our water usage, our plot plans from the county, everything has to be in working condition before you can plant a plant. Before you can get accepted and be able to grow, everything has to have already been done.
Well.
Trimming is something that is a skill set that we have chosen to contract out. We have a third-party company called Harvest Moon. Their specialty is in hand trimming. They charge as piecework, which means the people doing the trimming are paid per piece. In this case, it's per pound. So after it's dried and on the stem, you shuck, which is pulling all the leaves off. They just kind of run their hands down each side of it, sometimes kind of finger trim it, and then they'll bucket off the stem into totes. They then take that bucket into a little bit more manageable sized buds, and they hand trim each bud. After each trimmer is done with their lot, they take it to the lead. The lead then sifts it through a 1/4 inch screen. She then takes that batch and puts it into a trimmed batch, and then redictates out new lots for the trimmers to work on.
You can do 2.5, 3. But the speed that he was at was like really impressive. That's not like an easy task. You should try pick up a scissors and try trim a couple of buds.
And do it
it's
for
hard.
hours on end.